Okay, fine. Okay.
That would be good.
Still loading. Okay. No, I know the winters will be out because they had a cruise to go to. And they
They
were
didn't
there as
invite
Israeli
us?
guests, and they did not invite us to the cruise. Don't know where Howard is, or Melissa, or David Marnell is with his family. And Leon, well, I don't know where he is.
He's
out till January.
Who knows?
He's out till January.
He's out and collecting flags.
He's studying math, I think, in Kuala Lumpur or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
the
sure it's
5-hour
math
bus
he's studying
ride
in
from
Kuala
Singapore.
Lumpur.
They don't let
And I don't know
us
where
really
Lori
sit
is.
there.
No.
We'll have to contact
Does
all of
Singapore
them.
have a
I
good
think he's
But
probably out
hey,
channeling his
so-
inner Epstein.
So next week, we're starting the Tanya. We're back in Tanya.
I've got the book. It
Be'emunah.
came, it
Awesome. It's good. Okay, it's going to be
The
great
Kindle
exploration.
version is kind of wonky. Like you have words will break off, and you have to turn it a different orientation, and you may or may not get it. So I would suggest not getting the Kindle version of it because it's
No, I got
kind
the
of
actual
wonky.
little green book.
I don't use this ebook stuff. I
Okay.
can't handle it.
Let's go. We're ready. We're not going to wait. We're good. Okay. This is from chapter 22. Okay, 22 is an exciting chapter, and I guess we can say this is the scary chapter. Some people would call it scary.
I'm
Okay.
getting
Some
scared to
people
think
think
about it.
Stephen King's scary.
Okay, because we spoke about last time, I mentioned briefly that it's possible that a person could do some sins, some chataim, some transgressions, and because of those transgressions, depending on the nature of those transgressions, will be reincarnated into one of 4 levels that we spoke about. Remember the 4 levels, right?
Vegetable.
We had mineral, vegetable, animal, and man. And usually, that a person, if he wants to ascend, of course, after the person has been there for a while and done his tikkun, so then they elevate to the next step and elevate to the next step and elevate to the next step, those elements of the soul. We don't say the entire soul, but we say aspects of the soul, okay? So they go into the klipot, and there were many, many instances where the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, there was one thing I was reading last night, was at a cemetery looking at, there's hundreds of graves, and he sees a nefesh hovering over one grave, and he says, oh yeah, this person, they lived this, they did this, they did this, they did this, and this is, somebody, I guess, took a note of what that grave was. They went and investigated it, and they found out that that's indeed who this person was and what they did, right? So in other words, such tzaddikim on such a level, they were able to go ahead and see into all forms of life, what they were, where they came from, okay? Let's see, there was some other things that I wanted to share with you, okay? Sometimes, as we know, some people didn't do the mitzvahs, were not scrupulous enough in mitzvot, and exactly enough, according to their mind, according to their abilities. It's really scary, right? Because what happens is sometimes for even those finer points of those mitzvahs, they have to come back, or certain levels come back. So the famous story is the Baal Shem Tov, where I probably have told you this before. There was one story where there was no rain, and it was terrible, famine. They needed rain, desperate for rain. He sent his students, you guys got to go to this certain town and look up Moshe, right? And you got to go and ask Moshe to pray for rain. Moshe Shmerel, or whatever his name is, you have to go ask him to pray for rain. So they go and they visited that town, and they're looking for this guy Moshe Shmerel, and everybody is in the town going, Moshe Shmerel is the town drunk. And he
basically, the only time he's up is in the very wee hours of the morning. You'll find him up just before sunrise. He puts on tefillin for just a few minutes, and then he takes them off, crawls into a bottle, and sleeps the entire day and night. This is the guy you guys are looking for? These Hasidim are like, Well, this is what he said, right? That's what the Baal Shem Tov said, to go and ask him. So they waited. They saw, in the wee hours of the morning, he got up, put on tefillin. He started, davening. And as soon as he was about to take off his tefillin, right, and crawl into a bottle and go to sleep, they bust in his room and they go, Moshe, we need rain. We're desperate. So he makes a prayer. He says, Hashem, please make rain for bracha come the entire land. And all of a sudden the rain came. Boom. Started raining. And he drank his bottle and went to sleep. Okay? And they go back to the Baal Shem Tov and they go, what's the deal, Rebbe? What's the deal with this guy? And they go, well, in his last time he was so holy. He was so saintly. He did mamish every single mitzvah. There was one thing that he didn't do, which was he didn't put on tefillin from Hodu until Yishtabach. Right? A certain part of the prayers he didn't put on wear his talis and tefillin. And when his soul ascended to the highest of heights, and he was going from level to level to level, and all the doors were wide open, finally at the other level says, what, you can't come in here unless you had to have put up a bunch of tefillin in the early part of the service in the morning. So, we're going to have to send you back down. And he goes, no, you send me back down, I'm going to sin again. The world is full of distractions and temptations. And I go, okay, we're going to make you, the town, drunk. You'll be asleep the whole time, so you won't sin. And you'll just be up for that time to put on enough time to put on the tefillin, take it off, and then you'll fulfill your rectification, your tikkun that way. And that's why he was so that's why the Baal Shem Tov sent them. This guy was the guy who could get the prayer up there, of course. So even for, let's say, slight things that people are, sent into, back into this world. So it could be heavy mitzvahs and it could be lighter mitzvahs. Okay, so now let's start with the order of ascension. And here sometimes the rules can get broken. Okay? But this is something that I found to be quite fascinating. Okay? Are we on the same page?
Yeah, we got
178. The order of ascension, reincarnation to something inanimate or into vegetation, etc., happens at specific times of the year. We need a little chart for this, okay? Because you got to know which times of the year. And here he gives it play by play, okay? For example, someone who reincarnated into something inanimate for a few years' time, when the time arrives for him to ascend to the higher level of vegetation, great, I'm graduated being a rock. He can only do so during the 4 middle months of the year. That's Av, Elul, Tishrei, and Cheshvan. Here's your window, the window of opportunity where a person gets to move into the next level. Okay? If the time to ascend occurs during these 4 months, then he will ascend. Yay! However, if not, he will have to wait until these 4 middle months come around again, maybe next year, buddy. Okay? So somehow that's his window of opportunity where he gets to get elevated. The Baal Shem Tov did. Not the Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal did. He was, in the field several times and he would point out this rock is this so and this rock is that so. It's like, how many rocks do you know?
So
Okay?
how do you reincarnate a rock? You break it?
Sit on it.
Oh.
Say a prayer around it. Right?
So
Not too
you see
hard.
people walking around sitting on rocks making brachot like in these months?
You never know. Listen, we don't know who's in the rocks. It doesn't mean every single rock has a neshama to it, okay? But they do have sparks, holy sparks, and there is elevating. We are the people who elevate, okay? So you don't know, but one thing you do know now, the middle months is the opportunity, okay? The time to be elevated from the world of vegetation to the animal world is the first 4 months, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, and Tammuz. So that's vegetation. Okay? Interesting how it doesn't go like, let's start the first 4 months for mineral and then vegetation and then no. It does, obviously, it ain't working like that. I don't know why. Okay? The vegetation is the first 4 months. Okay? The time to be elevated from the animal world to the world of man is the last 4 months, Kislev, Tevis, Shvat, and Adar. That's when the animals get to be elevated. Even though the order of ascension is from the inanimate world to the vegetation world, and then to the animal world, and finally to the level of man, sometimes a person can ascend 2 levels at once. Baruch Hashem. Okay? It's a big schlep otherwise. You can avoid the schlep. Actually, I don't know. This is a special schus or a prayer. I don't know how. But he's going to give an example. For example, if a soul reincarnated into something inanimate, such as dust, and an animal came along and ate grass, which had the dust on it, very subtle, right? Just a speck of dust. A soul and a speck of dust. Then this soul will now reincarnate into that animal, because the animal eats it. Okay? Once the animal eats it, that's how that works with us too, and it works with actually tzaddikim. Okay? And they learned that out. Rabbi Nachman learns that out from Eretz Yisrael when it says, Eretz ochelet yosheveha, that the land eats its inhabitants. They said that about Israel. They were actually quite literal. Okay? But there's a positive aspect to it. Okay? The positive aspect is when you get incorporated into something higher, then you take on the form of that thing higher, which means all of the thoughts and the ideas and the concepts of that higher level of living. Okay? So tzaddikim also, they would be sitting around, some tzaddikim, these righteous people, and they're thinking about who to consume, or what kind of meat can you handle, what kind of people can you consume. Shocking, huh? But it's for good. Not a literal consumption, obviously. What it is, it's a taking in and ingesting, and when you ingest it, you incorporate that and you raise the level of it. You understand what I'm saying? Just like you eat food, what happens? The carrots become part of your blood system, right? The carrots. So the carrots become part of your blood system, and therefore they go through your entire body, and then they get elevated, and then your thinking and your processes and your actions, and they all become part of that, and they take part in a higher level of existence. Okay?
So, if you're going to be an inanimate
Yes.
object, it's better to be dust than a rock, because the dust can move through the system. The rock kind of unit.
It takes longer.
Yes. Unless, hopefully, the rock gets chipped and then becomes dust, and then the dust will go onto the grass, and then the cow eats the grass, and then Chagadya. Okay? Right? Okay. But here you get a 2-step process here. I think 179. Do you have it? This is the next sheet. That's not last week's. Okay. The next page. The top there. Here it says, by the animal, here I'm in a little note there, by the animal digesting what was eaten, the dust becomes part of the animal and the soul within it. Okay? Total elevation. Great. Thus, ascending 2 levels at once. Sometimes he can even reincarnate all levels at once, from inanimate to man. How's that? If a person eats food that has dust onto which a soul has reincarnated. So hey, if you accidentally ate something with some dust on it, some lettuce, so don't feel bad. You never know. It was meant to be, maybe, to elevate some poor soul that was reincarnated in the dust. Okay? Not that you go for dust, what do you call it, covered food, you know. But if it happens, right? So you never know, okay? We're here to elevate. Someone who has reincarnated into water, okay, is an interesting thing. How about how someone who has reincarnated into water? But you know, there's lots of stories about that. That's why you have to be, very careful to say brachas over water. Okay, there was a true story in the time of the Chavetz Chaim, where there was this girl who drank some water. The horse was going crazy in the middle of the night, slammed itself into a wall and died. The horse, weird. Obviously, there's a soul, a tormented soul, went into the horse and died. And then this girl was there all of a sudden, and she just took a sip of the water in the trough. I don't know what hygiene in those days. Water fountain, I guess, wasn't available. And she didn't say a bracha. If she would have said a bracha, she would have been protected, but the soul then went into her, of this tormented soul. True story. Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, they brought her to the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim just looked down the hall and saw her and says, okay, I'm going to send you my main student. He's going to deal with her. And you know, there was some tormented soul that did X, Y, and Z in previous lifetimes that they had to exorcise the spirit out of this girl. Okay? And that was just in the last generation. You're looking at like the 40s, I think, 40s, 50s. Maybe even before the war. Sorry, it could have even
Really?
been
Any
before.
current stories? Any
30.
good current stories?
There is.
There is.
There is two. Rabbi Basri in Israel 20 years ago, just before I left, there was this woman who was possessed by her husband, her late husband. It was kind of a weird because I actually have the video of that and reviewed the video of it. It would be great to have like subtitles if someone would ever want to do that, you know, translated, give subtitles. It was a real exorcism. It really took a long time for them to do this, and they had a whole group around. And Rabbi Batsri was interviewing this lady. The thing that was strange is it didn't meet a lot of the criteria that we have handed down to us in terms of what a classic possession is. Usually the classic possession is they're lying down, they're motionless, their mouths are open, and the voice comes out straight. Here, this lady was like adjusting her hat and going like this and talking like this, and right, going I don't know what. She was a lot of movements, which wasn't, but the voice was really trippy, totally wasn't her, right? And then there was a story also just before that. I was in a Litvish yeshiva, Torah Or, Rabbi Altusky, who was known to be a tremendous masmid. You know what a masmid is? Constantly learning. He doesn't stop studying. No, not one moment, free moment. Of course, he has to deal with people and do things, but there's no moment that's wasted where he is not engaged in study. So there was this a person in New York, okay? A girl, I don't know if it was a girl or
Why
a
is
boy.
it always women?
I don't know. I don't remember who it was. I'm sorry. Anyways, she had all of the symptoms that there was somebody else inside of her, and these three rabbis, New York rabbis, three heavies, real deals, okay, came in to try to, see what they could do, and instantly, the soul, the neshama of this girl, we'll say it's a girl, instantly says, all three are completely disqualified, you're a liar, you're a thief, and you speak Lashon Hara. This time and this day, she called all of them, nailed them all. On all their sins. She nailed them all. I'll tell you when you did it and who you did it to and everything like that. She nailed them all. She says, none of you have the merit to help me. And they go, well, who can do it? So you got to ask this rabbi in Tveria. There's a rabbi in Tveria. He fasts from week to week. Okay? He eats on Shabbos, but he fasts from week to week. Okay? So they ask this rabbi, and the rabbi goes, Rabbi Altusky, he happens to be in Chicago, call him. Rabbi Altusky, who's an Ashkenaz rabbi. Apparently, the Ashkenazim do learn the mystic parts of the Torah, but they don't tell anybody about it, especially their students. Okay? Even though their students might guess, apparently they learn it, but they just don't reveal it. Right? They don't come out and go, I am a Kabbalist, right? So they learn, and so anyways, they called Rabbi Altusky. And then when Rabbi Altusky did whatever he did, he came back to Israel. His close students were around him. We go, we heard the story. We heard the story. He said, what happened? What happened? They all want to know what happened. And he goes, he wouldn't tell them, but he would tell them it was indeed a true possession. We do have handed down that God doesn't bring these things anymore because there really aren't people who are on the level to handle it. God will not bring the ailment if there's nobody to take care of the situation. Okay? Even though you might want to consider that some schizophrenics might be this case. Might. Okay? As my father-in-law would take. Anyways. Just to let you know, there were some modern stories. Okay? Someone who has reincarnated into water and salt is not considered to be part of the inanimate world. How interesting. Why not? But they're called vegetation. Water and salt is called vegetation. Far out. Why? Since water is life-giving, it flows, and it is not stationary like dust. Okay? So since it's called a life-giving, so that we can't call it inanimate, because rocks generally don't give life. Okay? By the way, they do have it is one of the halachas, there is a halacha there, that it brings down in the Mordechai, not to drink well water on, this is a weird halacha, not to drink well water after mincha on Shabbos until Havdalah. Don't drink well water, not like we got wells all the time, okay? Don't drink well water. Because they say that the souls that were in Gehenna, and they get off Shabbos Gehenna gets closed for the people who kept Shabbos. Not for the people who didn't keep Shabbos. But they get off, and they travel to the Garden of Eden, wherever that is, some kind of traveling. And after Shabbos, towards Shabbos' ending, they're traveling back, and they travel through the water. I guess the well waters, or whatever, living waters or rivers. So they're traveling through there at that time, these souls. So they say one who drinks the water, well water, after Mincha or Shalashuda's time, is drinking the food of their dead relatives. I don't know exactly what that means. It doesn't kind of, because it should be like the souls are in the water. What do you mean, the food of the dead relatives? But in any case, people tend to not drink well water at that time. Okay? Still to this day. Okay? It is in the halacha. Okay, anyway, so that's water. Water is not inanimate, and salt itself is made from water. How is salt made from water? Because what happens is salt water. The water evaporates, it's burned off, and therefore you're left with salt. Okay? It's made from water that leaves the elements of the salt water. And therefore it is considered part of the vegetation world. And this is what Chazal say in Maseches Shabbos, that whoever takes salt from his quarry is guilty of what we call cutting. Cutting, as well as known, only applies belonging to the world of vegetation. In other words, on Shabbos we're not allowed to cut, trim a tree, or uproot vegetation. And so we have in our tradition that if you were to, usually if you dig a hole, that's a different malacha, that's a different manner of work on Shabbos. But here, you're taking salt out of the ground, that's called cutting, so therefore it's a proof that salt really is in the vegetation category.
What does Masechet mean?
Maseches, which means Masechta, tractate Shabbat.
Oh, tractate Shabbat.
Yeah. These types of reincarnations are discussed in many places, are alluded to in the pasuk, Hatzileni micherev nafshi, right? My only one from the grip of the dog. I've got to give you the Hebrew there because it's always much richer. Excuse my 1 second. Okay. One second, let me just
I
find
can
it.
probably get it.
No, I got it. It's here. Here it is. Okay. It's on the next one. Okay. Here he says, Hatzileni micherev nafshi is in Tehillim Chaf Beit. Save me from the sword of my soul. Miyad kelev yechidasi. And what is this? Sheyesh mi shenafsho misgalgelis bekelev. There is someone, it could be somebody that his soul actually is reincarnated into a dog. Actually, funny enough, there is a real true story, which I think you told me about. Rabbi Mizrahi says he knew a dog in Eretz Israel that does not eat on fast days. You can try to feed it, and you can You don't even have to point to a calendar. It knows, and it just will not eat on those days. Bizarre.
No, I don't think I told you that. I think I told you about the animals following you.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mukhulach.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. But this is like there's actually a case of a
Just in
dog
case.
in Israel. Rabbi, I think it was Eli Mansour who said it. Eli Mansour who said it doesn't eat on fast days. For some reason, it doesn't. It knows the days, and it will not eat. You put the food in front of it, won't touch food. Okay? Bizarre. Okay? So anyways, so King David is praying, Hashem, please, don't let me be reincarnated into a dog. Okay? Okay? They also hinted to our rabbis of blessed memory when they say in the Ba'omram Reish Torah B'dikula. Oh, this is a far out one. Okay? Buckle your seatbelts for this one. Okay?
Here, Lauren, it's a Satan for you.
Chazal hinted to this. If the head of an ox, I'm sorry. Let me go. Yeah, this is it. Okay? Chazal hinted to this when they said, if the head of an ox is in the feeding basket, okay, go to the roof and be very careful. Okay? Salik lagarki haroi shor shechor b'yemei Nisan, because the one who sees a black ox during the month of Nisan should run from it and go to the up to the roof, because the Satan is dancing between its horns. Okay? That's from the Masechet and Brachos. What is it talking about? Okay? This is like totally bizarre. Okay?
So it's eating because it's in the feed basket.
Yeah, but it's got to be done specifically in the month of Nisan. Okay? And it says a black ox. One who sees a black ox during the month of Nisan should run from it. Stay away. And what's the reason? Okay? So he says here, he brings down the reason is, okay, it's because since the month of Nisan is the head of the month, okay, I think, does it say it here?
It'll be the head of the year.
Let's read on. This is what they mean. Since the ox represents strict judgment, it is better suited for the gilgul of an evil soul more than other animals. And therefore, you should run from it more than from other animals, besides the fact that it has horns and you don't know if it's friendly. Okay? For there is no better time to reincarnate from vegetation to animals than in Nisan, and the 3 months that follow. Therefore, during the month of Nisan, because of the addition of an evil ibur, that means an evil soul going into the cow, the ox might damage anyone who meets it. In other words, since Nisan is the head where souls will tend to be new, right? That is the 4-month period, don't forget, right? The 4-month period of Nisan was, did we make a chart of it? Okay?
That's for man, right?
No, I think that's vegetation moving into
Right.
animals.
Vegetation is the 4-month Nisan. So since Nisan is the 4 months where all vegetation can move into an animal, since Nisan is the first of those, and some wicked soul would enter into a cow for the first time, and the cow gets agitated because, there's some new element, influence inside of me, okay? And he's not necessarily totally adjusted to it, so it can go crazy. Okay? And therefore, if it sees you, why not? Okay? Go after it. Okay? So that's why, weird as it is, this is like science fiction, okay? A black ox during the month of Nisan, get away. Okay, so if it happens to be Nisan, you don't know what soul could have gone into it. The ox could be agitated, and because it's a wicked soul, therefore there's a new influence, hey, just go get, right? There's a voice inside the ox's head, see that guy, get him, right? So therefore, run. Okay, get to the head of a roof like a high place, right? So it can't get to you, okay? Because if you just go in the barn, right, he'll just kick the door in the barn and come after you. You got to go high, okay? The ox, by eating the grass, allows the evil person to reincarnate into it, who in the beginning was vegetation. We have already explained the story of Janus and Yambres, the sons of Bilam, the evil, who made the calf in the month of Tammuz, in regard to whom it says, for the likeness of a grass-eating ox. Another place, okay, so you have to get a little background in this. who was Janus and Jambres. Okay? It's wild who they are. I cannot believe that they were even there at the time. I thought they were in another place. Janus and Jambres were the sons of Bilam. Remember Bilam, the wicked guy, hired to curse the Jewish people? So, Janus and Jambres were the head of the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is the mixed multitude. They're the ones who came out with Moses. They were the head of the mixed multitude, the sons of Bilam himself. It's like, why would you take this dude's sons? Like, you think they're good? Right? Far out.
I don't know why I thought that was where you're going with it. Just
Yeah.
You say Eruv Rav,
Eruv Rav means literally mixed multitude.
and then like Eruv.
Eruv just means mixed, blend.
They were like
When we say an Eruv, like an Eruv of Chatserus, like
Yeah.
an Eruv, like is there an Eruv around the city, right?
Yeah.
That means we've made this into a
One single dwelling.
kind of, yes,
I thought
a
the
virtual single dwelling that you can carry inside.
I thought the Arab was like the Egyptians that went with them when they split the sea and converted.
Right. So there was a group of people. We don't really. There's different opinions on who they are. The mixed multitude that came with Moses. Some people say that they were the Egyptian hieroglyphic experts. Right. And they obviously they wanted to go with the winners because their country is basically desolate. Egypt was desolate. Some people say that they were actually slaves from other nations that were also, it wasn't just the Jews that were enslaved. There were other nations that people were also slaves, right? So in any case, God did not advise to bring them along, but Moses insisted on bringing them along. That's why it says in the golden calf, specifically when Moses was at Mount Sinai, God says, go down because your people, the people who you brought out of Egypt, not my people, your people, meaning that those guys made themselves a golden calf. Now, the golden calf is a little bit of a story to it, okay? That here he brings down a little bit of the background, okay? That the mishpacha of Lavan, Bilam came from Lavan, and Beor, and Bilam, and his sons, Janus and Jambres. That's the family tree, by the way, just to have it. Lavan gave birth to the person by the name of Beor, and Beor gave birth to Bilam, and then Bilam had his Janus and Jambres. And the Erev Rav, right? All of these are from really one root, and these are what we call the Sige Nishmas Moshe Rabbeinu. This is the Shmutz of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, Shmutz, right? Everybody's got dregs, right? Everybody's got dreg aspects of the neshamas. Okay, now, even Moshe Rabbeinu, the highest of the highs, holiest of the holiest, he's got elements of his neshama, as we learned this last week. Hevel, don't forget, right? Hevel, he had a mixture because of the Nachash. He was mostly good, but partially evil. Right? So Hevel needed to get fixed. Every soul needs to get fixed. Every soul has to come back down and weed out the bad stuff and infuse with good. So Hevel, as we know, kind of split. Sheit took on the good aspects of Hevel, but the negative aspects of Hevel needed to get fixed, and that got fixed through Bilam, through Beor and Lavan, Beor and Bilam. Okay? But there are still aspects within, we say that Noah was from Hevel. Moshe Rabbeinu came from Hevel, right? So you can, if you're looking at it in the root form, since everybody is coming from Hevel, they're all coming from the same root, even Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? So Beor, the father of Bilam, he reincarnated into plant matter. Okay? And there was no tikkun to elevate him into a live animal. How are we going to elevate granddad? Janus and Jambres are having a dialogue, a meeting. They're into this kind of stuff. Granddad is a plant. Our grandfather's stuck. He's stuck in this being a plant matter, right? Which flower is he, right? I don't know, right? So, right? And why? So he was stuck, and still there was no tikkun to elevate him from into a Baal Chai, into a livestock, because of the shmutz, the evil shmutz that was still stuck in him. And without a doubt, he was hu ba'or haya bechinet elyona asher b'chol hasigim. He was the highest of what we would call the dregs in that specific route. Therefore, Yanis and Yamros, who were his grandkids, which were the head of the Erev Rav, the head of the mixed multitude, and all of the Erev, all of them, they wanted to fix Ba'or. Okay, interesting how we're going to fix him. Because if they would elevate, if he would be elevated, so they would also get an elevation. So they looked, they understood with their magic arts that there is no way to elevate him from there except that they would make Israel sin, and by way of that, so therefore the klipot, the husks, would have power, and they were able to then bring out the soul of Beor, their father, from the domain of the plant. So how did they do that? So they had to join with this. They had to combine this sin that they made by way of Aaron HaKohen. They needed Aaron to help them to make the golden calf. Now, if you know about the golden calf, far enough as it is, okay? Moshe Rabbeinu, there were people at the time when we were enslaved in Egypt that the Egyptians, unbelievably cruel, would take like kids, 8, 10, 11, and if there was an empty, vacated spot in the buildings, right, there was some hole because of bad architectural design or for whatever reason that they needed to fill, they would take those kids and shove them in the walls alive. Okay? It was a terrible thing, and just, seal it after. Terrible. Okay? They would shove a kid in there to die. Okay? They did find actually in mortar in Egypt baby bones recently. Okay? So Moshe Rabbeinu said, you got to stop this. He prayed to God. And God told him, you have to trust me on this one. No good would come from any of them. And Moshe goes, I don't believe that one bit. And God says, save one and you'll see. So Moses interceded and saved one of these kids. His name was Micah. You heard about Micah? He saved Micah. Okay? Not the prophet Micah. Different boy named Micah. Okay? And what happened was Micah, wonderful little devious little, kid, followed Moses the night that they're leaving Egypt. And the night that they're leaving Egypt, Moses was busy. He wasn't getting the jewelry like everybody else was busy doing. Moses had to find the coffin of Joseph. Apparently the Egyptians have hid the coffin of Joseph very deep in the bottom of the Nile. Okay, in an iron coffin. They threw him in the bottom of because they knew that Joseph says, when you leave here, you don't leave without me. And he made them all swear, and they swear that they will not leave without the bones of Joseph. And the Egyptians knew that, so they said, well, they ain't going to find him. And they threw him in the bottom of some Nile place in the Nile. So Moses got to find Joseph. He's busy. He writes on a plate with his Kabbalistic arts, Ale Shor, rise ox. Okay, he writes in Hebrew on this golden plate, rise ox, because Joseph is known as the ox. The ox, as much as we say the ox has like this evil powers to it, it also is an unbelievable staple of life-giving because it plows the fields. Without the plowing of the fields, you have squat. So it represents also the life-giving energy because it enables for plowing. So, and Yosef, who was the mashbir, he was the food source of the entire world. So he was known as the ox. So he writes, rise ox, throws the plate into the water. The plate sinks, the coffin rises of Joseph. Okay, the plate also rises up, but Moses doesn't pay care. He's got the coffin of Joseph. Yes, they pull the coffin of Joseph and they're ready to go. Meanwhile, Micah's hiding in the bulrushes, right? He's in the bushes, he's looking, he's watching Moses, and he sees the plate that also washed up on shore, grabs the plate, whole stashes it. Fast forward, they left Egypt 40 days after the giving of the Torah. Where's Moses? We want another God. Aaron's trying to stall, get your wives to give gold. The wives, it says, we ain't giving our gold, right? You shmendrik, get the heck out of here. And they pull out their own rings, they give their own gold. Moses grabs it, throws it into the fire. When he throws it into the fire, Micah's there, he pulls the plate and he also throws it in the fire, which says rise ox, and that's what became an ox because of it, okay? So that's why an ox came out, okay? And they were all very happy. And because Aaron was involved in this and his holiness, so therefore it helped to elevate, we got Beor out of the plant phase. Now he's livestock, and Beor was invested in the ox itself, okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
So we get this ox coming out twice. First, Moses throws the plate in, and the ox comes out of the bottom of the Nile. Now this guy, Micah,
Not the ox, Yosef, who's known as the ox.
who's known as the ox, but
Right.
isn't the ox representing, is the second story the animal ox, and the first story ox the representation of Moses?
No, ox is-
Joseph, I mean.
The
The
Yosef is nickname was the ox.
The ox, so that what, the sepulcher that comes out of the, that's Joseph.
Yes,
The ox, quote, the ox.
yes,
Now with the plate
yes,
that Micah throws in with the rest,
right.
comes out the real ox, huh?
A golden ox,
A golden ox.
apparently that has some kind of life to it, okay?
Okay.
That eats grass and elevates Beor. That's according to the Arizal, okay? It
What a
was,
heck of an elevation.
right? A moving ox. I mean,
Made
it's
of
like,
gold. I know.
right? So therefore, that's why they made an egel, right? An egel of gold, a calf of gold, which is called the shore, through their mystic arts, right? Which was in there through their mouths. V'nischavru kol hasiuim yachdav shel haklipa v'achmasha. They used all of their witchcraft, and of course, combined with the holiness of the power of Aaron, right? And the holy name that was on the plate, okay? Because that was a holy name written by Moses. Ba'ayidei Cain, and through that, so therefore the ox, the golden calf, went out. Ubasocho ruchniut v'chiyut shel nefesh be'or aviyem, and in that, within that, was the spirit and the life force of the nefesh of Beor, their father, or really was their grandfather, Yanis and Yambres. Okay, V'yala mitzomech lechai, and he went finally from plant to live. V'kibeluha aleim lemanihig shiodim atidos v'kol hatzarich aleihim. Right, so. The nefesh beor harasha shaya b'shor, and the nefesh of beor, the wicked, who was in the ox, and in that ox, right? He tzavach, he cried out, and he was the one who said, "Eile Elokecha Yisrael." He always wanted to know. If you look at the verses in the Chumash, it says when the ox came out of the fire, it was an ox. It says, "These are your gods, Israel." And they want to know who is saying that, right? It's not Israel is saying, this is our God. It says, these are your gods, Israel. Who's talking? So according to the Arizal, it was the ox. Okay? And this is also what the secret of our wise men have said of blessed memory, that they fed it grass. Don't ask me how it ate, but I guess they say it had some kind of life force to it, okay?
Well, we're assuming gold and like metal. It could have been just a gold cow, gold-colored cow.
It's pretty cool, okay? Ubetavni shor ochel esev, okay? In the form of an ox, right? Since he was reincarnated into grass, right? So Beor became elevated. So that became totally part of the body of the ox, and then it actually was raised up that level from vegetation to livestock. Okay, and this is through the witchcraft that they did. Therefore, lechein asu et egel b'chodesh Tammuz. That's why they specifically needed to make the egel, this calf, in the month of Tammuz. Because that is the first month of the time where what? the vegetation goes to the level of animal. So that's specifically why it says has to be in the month of Tammuz. Okay, and we know that the 17th of Tammuz is when they made the golden calf. Okay, let's go back into that. Now that you have a little background in there. Okay, where are we?
The golden calf, 17th of Tammuz?
It was yes,
Is that part of the fast of Tammuz and all
yes.
that?
Fast of Tammuz was the golden calf. Right, right. Here. So it says here in the note, right? The day on which Moshe broke the 2 tablets after seeing the golden calf constructed in the Jewish camp within one of the 4 months that souls reincarnate from vegetation to animals. Apparently, Bilam's sons were there at the time, and they used their magical abilities to draw down towards them the radiance of the image of the ox from the Merkava. Also, the Merkava, one of the animals in the holy chariot in the cosmic realm that holds up this throne, there's a ox image. There's an ox, right? Because there's 4 animals that hold up this throne. They also knew that as well. There was a lot of depth that went into that ox. One thing. Naval HaKarmeli reincarnated into something inanimate, and thus it says his heart died within him, and he was a rock, specifically. Because we learned last week that Naval, Bilam, died, and he reincarnated into Naval, right? Who was in King David's time. Naval also spoke bad about Moses, and elements of him was reincarnated into a rock, because rocks are quiet. The sod of this is understood from knowing that Lavan reincarnated into Bilam, and later into Naval HaKarmeli. Bilam, who was a snake charmer, and had power only in his mouth to curse people. And when Bilam was killed, it was with a single rock, meaning something domain, silent, to atone for the charming he did with his mouth. Okay? When he further reincarnated, it was into Naval HaKarmeli, originally for the sake of rectification. But instead, he angered David when he said, who's David and who is Ben Ishai? We learned this last week. David wanted to kill him, but he came to rectify the evil speech of Bilam, and instead he repeated the mistake, and therefore his heart died when he remembered that he had once been a rock. And that's interesting memory that come up. Okay, forgot about that one. Okay, this is why the pasuk does not say, and he became a rock, but rather he was a rock. Okay, in other words, I think from Bilam he went into a rock, and then from the rock he went into Naval. Okay, so Naval remembered that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, I don't know, his consciousness was opened up, and he realizes that he was once upon a time a rock. Okay, so that was what gave him a heart attack. You need not wonder how he knew this, for Naval was an important person, and it is even likely that he was a prophet, or just someone with great understanding. It could be that his mazel understood this, even though he did not. Okay? Sometimes our mazel sees things, as we know, right? In other words, if a person gets frightened and they don't see anything, it says that the mazel, a person's mazel, sees it. Okay? Meaning your higher levels of soul see it. Okay? What do? Say the Shema. Okay? And if you're in a bathroom, you say, the goat in the slaughterhouse is fatter than I. Just remember that. Write that down.
From last, the goat. Yeah,
The goat in the slaughterhouse is fatter than I.
Yeah, so go get him instead.
Right. Okay? The concept of reincarnating into something inanimate is also hinted to by the pasuk, the stone from the wall cries out. For it is possible for stones in a wall to be reincarnations. For the wood rafters to be from the level of vegetation, and they will cry out from the extent of their punishment which they are undergoing. We will explain other verses along these lines. Okay? Sins and their gilgulim. We have a little bit of time. One who speaks lashon hara. Hashem, please save us. Okay? Disparaging speech about another, even if what is being said is true, when there is no Torah basis to do so. In other words, lashon hara, there are many laws of lashon hara, right? Guard Your Tongue is a great book. It was translated. from the Chavetz Chaim about how to guard your tongue. That one of the classic excuses that people want to give themselves, or justifications when they say something derogatory about someone, is they say, but it's true. That doesn't mean you should be saying it.
We should get
Okay?
this book out to the
It's
progressives.
it's a huge, oh my gosh. That's a, yeah.
Doxing is not
Well,
okay.
you just throw them some rock book. Read the book, and you won't be a rock. Okay, or similar. Okay, so one who speaks lashon hora or similar will reincarnate into a stone which cannot speak, and as we said regarding Naval HaKarmeli, since the opposite of speaking is silence, right? Like this is what you did. Now you're going to be doing this. God says, okay? Someone who feels improperly slaughtered, someone who feeds improperly slaughtered meat, nevela, okay, to a Jew comes back as a leaf on a tree. Okay, here we get the list, okay? Now, I don't know if you should use this to people, right? You did that? You fed him non-kosher? You're going to be a leaf, okay? Don't go pointing your fingers, okay? We pray for every Jew. We want to elevate every Jew. Tshuva is always possible, okay? But there are cases where people, kosher butchers, right? Several cases recently.
From Postville.
Oh,
They're doing all those exposés.
Hashem save us, where they switch meat. They switch kosher meat and they sell it as kosher. But it was really treif meat. They bought it for much less, repackage it, sell it as kosher. Several
Well, they were
several
doing some of
places.
those exposés in the slaughterhouses, and they went to some kosher ones, and they found the same level of nonsense like the non-kosher
Yeah, some of them are
slaughterhouses.
like from China and it has like dog meat or.
I don't know anything about any slaughtering going in China. I doubt there's any
But
slaughtering
it's like
going in
kosher,
China.
but it's
It has
like-
a
and
special-
We know
Special
we know
tariff on that.
kosher now. It's you and the halacha is that's why around meat you have to have what's called hashgacha tamidis, which means constant supervision. There has to be a third party audit always on the premises or very close by, in and out, really on the premises, marking, knowing exactly where this meat comes from. I know stories, but anyways, let's move on, okay? A leaf on a tree. Why a leaf on a tree? That's what's interesting. I don't see the measure for measure there, okay? The level of vegetation. The wind blowing him back and forth will never allow him to rest, and this will be his punishment. That's weird. How is that a measure for measure? If I just ask you right now, okay? This guy fed treifa meat to a kosher Jew, right? And now this person comes back as a leaf which has no rest. When his time is over, the leaf will become detached from the tree, wither, right, novelet, and fall to the ground. This is an example of a real death for him, one who was cut off and uprooted from the world. And this is the secret of the verse, which means sod, which means secret, of the pasuk means verse. The leaf will wither. Since one who feeds nevela, that's why nevela and naval, right, because a withering leaf, that's what novelet. Novelet is a withering leaf, so they come from the same root in Hebrew. Since one who feeds nevela to a Jew reincarnates into a leaf that withers and falls to the ground. This is also the secret of the verse, you will be like a elm tree with withered leaves, because sometimes the withered leaf can return as another leaf, which will wither even many times, as in the case of a person who has to reincarnate many times in this world to receive his specified punishment. In other words, he's not saying that he goes, wow, great, the leaf withered, I'm done. No, because you're just going to come back into another leaf, and then another one, and another one, and another one, and it keeps happening. Okay?
So, torment.
Gilgul means wheel. Some people reincarnate into water considered on the level of vegetation, as we mentioned previously. This can happen to a person who spills blood in this world. And you can remember this from, you will spill blood on the ground like water. So here we have a direct correlation from blood to water. Okay? Spilling blood could be actually simple Also, it doesn't have to be a literal killing. It could be even a embarrassing in public. Even though they do say also somebody who embarrasses somebody in public, it's considered to be spilling the person's blood because the blood leaves the person's face and they become white if they are embarrassed. Also, it says that that person loses their next portion in the next world, somebody who embarrasses somebody in public. It also says one who spilled the blood of another, his blood will be spilled, meaning that he will be placed under a flow of water that will pour on him constantly. Okay, so you have a Chinese water torture. Okay. Oh, what do they have? The other one? What's the other one they call it?
Waterboarding.
Thank you. Waterboarding. He will want to get up and stand, but the water will constantly pour on him and he will find no relief, constantly rotating in circles under the flow of water. Can you imagine that? If you see some kind of flow going in the swimming pool or wherever, and you just can stare at it going, I wonder if there's any poor souls in there, okay? Maybe you want to help them, okay? I don't know. Maybe it's your turn. Maybe it's an opportunity. How can you help them, okay? This is hinted to in the pasuk. We will all die like water flowing along the ground that connected to connected, be collected. Wait, let me read that again. We will all die like water flowing along the ground that connect, be collected. How would you read that?
Terribly.
Terrible. As well, anyone... maybe this is the Hebrew. I have to go back into there. We're out of time, so I'm just going to kind of move fast. As well, anyone meant to die by strangulation, but who was not punished by the Beis Din, will reincarnate into water and be strangled every moment. How do you like that? Okay? Because they say one who needs, they say now, the four Beis Din, we don't have any more judicial punishment and capital punishment, and because we don't have any more courts, Sanhedrin, etc. We're in exile. But God does it, and that's why you have basically the four capital punishments take different forms these days, okay? Such as strangulation being one of them. And strangulation is if a person, God forbid, he drowns. This is a form of strangulation. One who commits adultery with a married woman and who is therefore punishable by strangulation will reincarnate into a grinding stone, into which wheat is placed and which uses water to grind. That is where the man and the woman will be judged. Besode for another, my wife will be ground. Okay, go figure. Right, the word grinding is used here as a euphemism for marital relations. One who is not scrupulous with the washing of hands. Okay, before eating bread. We'll just do just a little bit more, just because it's the exciting part. You all waited for this, right? This little scary list of things, okay? Right? Before washing for bread, a person has to wash his hands. Okay, that is no. A person should walk even a mile to go ahead and find some water. There are certain extreme situations where you could just wrap your hands and eat the bread if you're wherever, in a bus and starving.
Can you use clean dirt?
Clean dirt is not recommended, okay? Leaves would probably be better, okay? Clean dirt you can use for after the bathroom, leaves or anything that grows from the ground for after the bathroom, but for bread, specifically water, okay? You can dip into a river, though, also, okay? Okay, so anyways, one who is not scrupulous with washing the hands for Natilas Yadayim before eating bread will reincarnate into water, and this is the secret of the verse. Then they would have surged across our soul the treacherous waters. Blessed is God who did not present us as prey for their teeth. And the head letters of did not present us as prey for their teeth. Nun, tet, lamed, natal, which spells the word natila, therefore washing. So therefore someone who did not wash properly is reincarnated into water. This is the sod, this is the secret of what Chazal say. One who eats without washing his hands is uprooted from the world and is judged with water. There is a hint to this from, blessed is God who did not present us as prey for their teeth, right? Which we said that the letters, the Roshi Tevos, spell the word natal. By washing one's hands, one is not given as prey for their teeth, that is, for surging waters. Therefore, we must thank God that we, unlike the evil, wash our hands. Okay? One who does not recite blessings in advance of enjoying something, treating them with no respect, or steals from his father and mother, or befriends a destructive person also reincarnates into water. A lot of water. Some reincarnate into animals. A community leader who lords himself over others reincarnates into bees. Okay. As Rav Nachman, why bees? Okay. I don't know why bees. Okay. Community leader. So, you'll never see a bee the same way. Rabbi, is that you? Okay. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, pride does not suit women. 2 women were proud, and the names of both were not positive. One was called Bee, and the other was called Cat. So he was referring to Devorah, the prophetess, who lorded herself over Barak, when she sent him for him and did not go to him herself. Okay? That's a far cry. I don't want to go so far as to say it. I wouldn't read it if it wasn't written in the book, but apparently, so someone who lords over others can be reincarnated into a bee. The other was Huldah, the prophetess, who disgraced Tzidkiyahu, the king, when she said, speak to the man, as opposed to speak to the king. She said, speak to the man, instead of she should have said, speak to the king. As Chazal say, from their words, you can see that Devorah was a proud woman, and therefore she didn't perform any work and was very talkative, never remaining silent. Therefore, a leader who lords himself over the community, I don't think you have this.
No.
A leader who lords himself over the community and the one who speaks improperly come back as bees who have these 2 traits. You'll never see a bee again the same way. Okay. Next week we're starting Tanya. Okay. Shar Yichud ve'emuna, God willing.
So
I
here's
have
a
one
random.
question. This sound isn't correct.
I'm gonna go get
22.